Hello and welcome. My name's Zolf, and it's my pleasure to take you on a guided tour of Arcion for real-time data movement. Now, Arcion is an in-memory, multi-threaded replication solution allowing you to move large volumes of data from relational data stores into a relational database, data warehouse, or cloud technology downstream. Now, Arcion comes in two different flavors. There's a self-hosted version that allows you to deploy Arcion on-premise or on a VPC. And there is also a self-managed cloud version as well. Now, for this demonstration today, we have everything installed on my laptop locally. So I'll have Arcion installed on my Windows laptop. I also have two virtual machines, one running my source environment, which is Oracle, and one running my target environment, which will be PostgreSQL. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at the environments. So as I mentioned, I have Oracle as a source set up. In there, I have a testDB, a TPCC source schema. In there, I have 9 tables, and you can see there's some data. In fact, I've just done a quick count just to show you that there is data in all 9 tables, and this is what we will be replicating across. So as well as moving the existing data, we're going to move change data, and we're going to create target table structures. So Arcion will do all the heavy lifting for you. Okay, so let's look at Postgres. Now in Postgres, I have my target DB as destination. I have my public and replicate schema. However, I'll be creating another schema for my TPCC data itself. So nothing exists right now. It's kind of like an empty shell. Arcion, as I mentioned earlier on, will do all the hard work, create the schema and tables for me, as well as moving existing and change data. Okay, let's go ahead and let's have a look at Arcion. First thing, I'll be using the UI for Arcion, and this comes in a self-contained Docker image, which I've got running. It's underpinned by a Postgres database that we're using to collect metadata. Again, you can use any database. We will use Postgres as an example. Okay, so let's go ahead, sign in into my Arcion dashboard. Now, the first time you actually sign in, you'll have a blank canvas and you'll have a button that will say, let's get started. We will walk you through the whole process of creating a data pipeline from start to finish without any coding required. Now, let's simulate that environment, and I'm going to go ahead, click on new, and we'll give this a name. So we'll call this Arcion demo. We can give it a description. So this is going to be Oracle to PostgreSQL. Now we've got a couple of options here. First of all, replication mode. How do we want to deliver the data? How do we want to capture the data? So snapshot is taking existing data that resides within your tables, so the historic data, and moving this across only. Full will give you not only what the snapshot capability does to move the historical data, but we will also enable log-based CDC. So any changes that occur, we will also propagate that downstream. So we make sure we keep the target environment in sync with your source. Downstream, how do we want to deliver that data? So we've got several options here. Replacing will basically create the schema table and applying the data. So if there's nothing created downstream, Arcion will do everything for you. Truncating will help you preserve your schema, but move data only. Any change data that occurs will move the data across. Appending will allow you to keep your schema and keep your existing data, and we will append data to the end of the table. So for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to click on full and replacing because I want to create everything downstream. So let's go ahead, click next. Again, when you're new to Arcion, you'll have a blank canvas. You'll create your own connections for sources and targets. I have some pre-built, but let me walk you through the step of how easy it is to create a connection. So let's click on the plus sign. You'll be presented with various source databases that Arcion supports. And again, Arcion is always constantly adding to this. So by the time you get to look at Arcion, we'll have a lot more sources and a lot more targets that are supported. So let's go ahead, click Oracle, for example, click continue, and Arcion will ask you, here are the mandatory fields that you need to complete. And again, this is going to be specific to each source data platform. So in Oracle, you'll see things like service name that needs to be completed. On the right-hand side, we've got our documentation. So this will walk you through the whole process of setting up Arcion for replication, making sure prerequisites are satisfied for Arcion, and that we can configure Arcion within the UI to capture what we want. I'm going to move back a few screens because I have this configuration already pre-created. So you can see there's several Oracle connections that I have here. I'm interested in my Oracle source TPCC connection. So I'm just going to edit this just to show you. So we've put in our service name, we've given it a replication name that we understand what environment this is. The host IP address, so connected to my source virtual machine, user credentials that has access to the tables I want to replicate, port number, some configurations for here around connections, and log reader methods. So I'm just going to stick with the default. We have various different log reader methods. We've got a native database log reader. We're using log miner. We can use archive log only. So there's various methods that we can use. So I'm just going to stick with log miner and test connection. So this is just a sanity check just to make sure that we have all the required prerequisites satisfied in order to capture from Oracle, like access to the logs, user credentials, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got a past status here. So everything is good for Arcion. We're going to click on next and continue. So here we need to sync the connector to the source to derive metadata information about that source environment, what schemas we have access to in tables, etc. So I've gone ahead and performed this already. We've got access to the following schemas. I'm going to go ahead and click connect. Before I click to destination, there are some advanced options in here for both sources and targets that we can set. So on the source side, we can do some performance tuning about setting the number of threads. As I mentioned earlier on, we are multi-threaded, so we can move high chunks or high volumes of data from source to target, as well as setting other options in here as well. But I'm going to stick with the default, and I'm going to go ahead and continue to destination. And likewise, you'll have to connect or create your destination connections from scratch. I have one pre-created for Postgres already, target, which is going to be utilizing my target DB. Let's click on edit just to show you that. So again, likewise, similar to Oracle, we need to put in where that host resides. Arcion is 100% agentless, so we need to put in that information for how we connect. Port number, the database that we want to connect to. Replication slots more for source, not for target. So here we don't have to set anything. And again, I can go ahead, test connection, make sure everything is viable for Arcion. And likewise, on the right-hand side, we've got some documentation that will help you set up Arcion for replication to PostgreSQL. Okay, so let's go ahead. For the target, we don't need to do the sync connector. That's only for source. So let's go ahead and click on continue. Likewise, we've got some advanced options that we can set for the applier, which is a target, but in my case, we're all good there. So let's continue to filter. So let's review what we've done so far. We've told Arcion how to connect to the source and the target, and if we want to do any performance tuning. Here, I'm actually going to tell Arcion what is it exactly I want to move from source to target. So here, we don't have to move the entire database. We can be granular. We can specify exactly what schema, tables, columns, and even down to row level of what should be replicated across. This demo consists of my TPCC schema and source, so I want everything to come across, including all the columns. Now, mapping tables here, you can manipulate some of the information. By default, when we move heterogeneously, Arcion does all the mapping for you, like the table names like for like and data types. We convert it to what's suitable for downstream technology that we're going to be applying to. So here you can override some information in here. So for example, if it's an operational database, but for analytics, you need more business user-friendly naming conventions, you can change that here. Now, in my case, TPCC is standard. We know what customer is, we know what district is. So I'm going to stick with the default. I'm going to go ahead and save this configuration, and we're going to go ahead and start replication. Now, what you've noticed here is that we've automatically moved from configuration to monitoring. So it's one installation, one UI for Arcion to govern your whole ecosystem for Arcion. So we can do all the configuration, the management, the monitoring, all within a single UI. There's no need to have different installations installed or different desktops running for different segments of what you want to do within replication. So here we have a confirmation of what source target is. We have the health status, so everything is running. Prior to that, it was initializing. We were creating all our runtime components. We have some actions here that we can do with replication. We can stop, restart, we can terminate. etc., etc. Some statistics that we'll look at. And here, again, within the logs, we can see what Arcion's doing in the background. We can also isolate areas. So for easy troubleshooting, we can define what the area is and how to resolve it. And we've also got some governance in here. So an audit capability. So anything that anyone or any user does within Arcion when they log in is tracked as well in here. So you can see now from a statistics point of view that we've got some data that's moved across. We can get some detail about that. Again, I can compare that down here just to make sure we've got, okay, yep, 30K, 10K, looks all good. If I move that there. So we've actually moved that bulk data across. Now what we can do is actually do some change data. So before I do that, let's just minimize this screen. I'm using HaberDB to create some transactions. So, bit of a lag. I'm just going ahead and kick off that job. Now what I want to do is go into Postgres and see what's happened there. So I just need to refresh this view itself. So let me take my target DB, right click and say refresh. Now, under schemas, what we'll see is there's a new schema in there, TPCC. And we can see if we scroll down, we've got tables, and we can see Arcion's helped create those tables as well. So I'm just going to take customer, for example, just to make sure. Let's look at all rows. That query is going to not take too long. So we can see we've got data in there. So Arcion has helped move that across. So let's move back into Arcion, back to summary, and we can see, again, we've got more information that's been produced in here. Statistics that will take should refresh in a while. We can see more metrics about row replication rate as well. So hopefully this is giving you some insights into how Arcion works. Again, I can segment my views about which transactions I'm interested in as well. How many deletes, how many updates, etc., etc. So I'm just going to go back from my homepage, see all my replication flows already been pre-configured. So thank you for your time. If this has piqued of interest, we'd be happy to hear from you. You can contact us from our website. There is a contact to section in there. We're also on LinkedIn, Twitter. So thank you for your time today, and we hope to talk to you very soon.